Hey guys, it's me, Miss Mills, and welcome to Miss Mills' Math Time. The whole point of this video is to help you out with the very last way we're going to learn how to solve systems of equations, and that is by the elimination method. Now, what the elimination method helps you do is it just takes away one of the variables so you can solve a more simple equation for either the x or y variable, and then you can substitute your answer back into one of the equations to solve for the other variable. So again, what it does, it's similar to substitution, but there's a difference. And that difference is you're going to subtract the whole equation. And I'm going to teach you how to do that real quick. We're going to do 4 examples together. We're going to go over the steps. We're going to go over all that fun stuff. And if you have any questions afterwards, let me know. I'll be happy to help in any way that I can. Let's go ahead and do this. So let's look at the steps real quick to solving systems by elimination. All right. Again, guys, listen. You can solve systems however way you want to. You can solve it by graphing if you prefer that. You can solve it by substitution if you prefer that. But elimination is another way that you can solve it if that's the easiest way for you. Now, once you get to high school next year, it's going to get a little bit harder to solve, systems by graphing as more equations are added to a system. It's also going to make it harder to solve equations by substitution as well. Once more equations get added to a system, most people prefer elimination at the end of the day. So it is important to learn all 3. That way, when you go to high school next year, you know how to solve systems of equations however you prefer to do it. Now, let's go over these real quick. So this is how you do it. First, you're going to line all the equations up. Okay? So you know how you used to add and subtract, decimals. You had to add up the decimal place perfectly in order to add and subtract down, or you were going to mess up. It's going to be the same thing with subtracting equations. You have to line them up perfectly, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Once you do that, you're going to identify a variable that has the same coefficient. So you're going to look at your variable, your x or your y value, and you're going to figure out which one has the same number in the coefficient. Okay? And I'll show you that in just a second too. Once you identify that variable, you're going to subtract the equations to eliminate that variable. Once you subtract, then you can solve for the variable that's left over. So let's say you located that the variable y has both equations, the coefficient next to it is 3. Okay? You can subtract those down so you get rid of the y variable altogether, so all you have left is x. And you can go ahead and solve for x. And once you have your x value, you can substitute that value back into one of the original equations to solve for y. And then you're done. So once you're done with all that, then you can once you have solved for your x and your y value, you can go ahead and substitute those values back into one of the equations to make sure it works out. Make sure it is actually a solution to the system of equations. I'm going to do 4 examples. Let's do this. All right, so let's look at this first problem right here. We have, and I'm going to write it down real quick, y is equal to 9x minus 23. And then y is equal to 1x plus 1. Because guys, remember, when you have a variable by itself, you want to put a 1 in front of that, okay? That'll just make it easier for you. And as you can see, if you're looking at these, I lined them up for you, okay? As you can see, like the y's are perfectly in line, the equal to's are perfectly in line, the x values, these coefficients, they're perfectly in line. I moved this down so you had the x right next to each other, one right on top of the other, and then I did this one as well. As you can see, negative 23 is going to be added by 1, whatever. Okay, so line them up first. And I did that on here. Cool. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Again, we're going to subtract the equations because here's what's going on. As you can see, the y value and our x values, you want to locate which one has the same coefficient. Okay? If we're looking at our x values, our 9 and our 1 is not the same number. Okay? But if we look at our y values, as you can see, they're both by themselves. So what that means is there's a 1 in front of both of those y's. Therefore, this variable right here has the same coefficient. So this is the one we're going to get rid of. This is how you do it. So again, we're going to subtract, okay? So what that means, we're going to subtract the whole equation by the other equation. So I want to make something very clear. So this is how I wrote it, okay? I have -1 and then I put this in parentheses. So if y'all remember from a long time ago, or a couple of weeks ago honestly, we can use the distributive property here, okay? So if this is a -1, I'm going to multiply all of the numbers inside of the parentheses by this -1. So -1 times 1 is going to give me -1y, okay? -1 times 1x is going to give me -1x. And then -1 times 1 is going to give me -1. Okay, so I've rewritten the problem. And now I'm going to bring this over here too, and then I can subtract down. Okay, and now I have a problem. So 1 minus 1, that's going to give me 0. 9 minus 1 is going to give me 8x. And then -23 minus 1 is going to give me -24. All right, so I subtracted down. Now I can solve for x. And this is what I want to do. I'm going to put it in the balance beam. I'm going to move my variable over here. So what I'm going to do is the opposite of 8x, which is -8x. And whatever I do on one side, I'm going to do on the other side as well, okay? So I want to separate these two. I want to move my variable to the other side of the equal sign, okay? And you'll see why in just a second. Now that I have moved this variable, now I can solve for x, okay? To solve for x, I got to do the opposite of x getting multiplied by -8, so I'm going to divide by -8. Whatever I do on one side, I have to do it on the other side as well, okay? So these cancel out, they're opposites. I'll bring down this x value, and then -24 divided by -8 is going to give me a +3. Okay, so how I did that again is after I line these up, I located that these have the same coefficients, my y does, so I'm going to subtract them. And to subtract them, I'm going to take the -1, and I'm going to multiply it by everything inside, so then I can rewrite my problem, and it's easier to subtract everything down, okay? Because it was 1 minus 1, 9 minus 1, -23 minus 1, and it just makes it easier. Once I subtracted and I got rid of this variable, I literally eliminated it. It's gone now. All I had left was my x, so then I could solve for x. Once I solve for x, now I can go ahead and substitute this back into one of these two equations to solve for y. So let's go ahead and do it. And it doesn't matter which equation you do, you're going to get the right answer regardless. So I'm going to do this first one up here. So I'm going to have y is equal to 9 and then 3 minus 23. Okay? So y is equal, 9 times 3 is going to give me 27 minus 23. 27 minus 23 is going to give me 4. So my x value is 3. My y value is 4. Alright, so once I have this, now just to check my work, because this is my answer, I have to substitute this back into one of these problems to make sure it works out. So it doesn't matter which one I substituted in, I'm going to substitute into this first one just because, I just solved it, so it's going to be easy. So what it says is my y value, I'll put it down here, my y value is 4, my 9, my x value is 3, and now I'm going to solve to make sure it works out. So 9 times 3 again was 27 minus 23. Bring down my 4. 27 minus 23 was equal to 4. 4 is equal to 4. So hey, it works out. So my answer is going to be 3 and 4. Okay, my x value is 3. My y value is 4. So I'm going to go back to here. And I'm going to say my answer is 3 and then 4. Alright, so now I'm going to do the exact same thing on this problem as well. Again, first steps, I'm going to line them up. Okay, so that's what I just did. I lined these two problems up. Okay, it's the only thing we're focusing on. Now I need to locate, well, which variable has the same coefficient. Well, if I'm looking at my x values, this x value has a -7 as a coefficient. This one has 4, so that's not the same number. But if I look at my y values over here, they're by themselves, so what that means is there's a 1 in front of them. So this is the variable I'm going to eliminate. That's why we call it elimination. So what I'm going to do is if I'm going to subtract it, I need to take a -1 and multiply it by everything on the inside in order to rewrite the problem. Okay? So I'm going to move this over here. And -1 times 1 gives me -1y. -1 times 4, +4 is going to give me a -4x. And then a -1 times a -6 is going to give me a +6. All right? So now I can subtract down. 1 minus 1, those are going to cancel out. They're opposites. So that's going to be equal to 0. -7 minus 4 is going to give me -11x. Okay? Now, 5 plus 6 is going to give me a plus 11. Okay? Because when I did a negative times a negative, it gave me a +6. So these problems right here, take the operation in front of it, it's going to be 5 plus 6, which gives me a +11. So that's why it's important to take this negative number and multiply it by everything on the inside. Essentially what you're going to do is you're going to flip the sign on every single term in the second bottom row. Okay? So now that I've done that, I want to move my variable to this side so I can solve for x. So I'm going to do the opposite of a -11, which is a +11. I'm going to do that on both sides. So now I can solve for x once I move that around. The opposite of 11 multiplied by x is to divide it by 11. I'm going to do that on both sides. This is 11 over 11 is 1 whole of a fraction, so x is equal to 1. So I have my x value. I'm going to plug it in to one of these equations in order to solve for y. I'm going to choose this front equation just because I think it'll be a little bit easier. Okay. So y is equal to -7. My x value was 1. And I'm going to put +5, and now I'm going to go ahead and solve for this. Y is equal to -7 times 1 is -7 plus 5. -7 plus 5 is going to give me a -2. All right, so my x value is 1, my y value is -2. So I'm going to write that down over here in my ordered pair form. You can't see that. Cool. All right, in my ordered pair form, and now I'm going to plug these values in to one of these equations to make sure it works out, make sure I got the correct answer. That's the cool thing about this, is you can always see if you messed up by checking your answers at the end, okay? Just saying. So if you're taking a test and you're not 100% sure, go ahead and check to make sure it works out. Alright, so I'm going to substitute these values into one of these equations to make sure it works out. And again, I'm going to choose this first equation because I kind of already solved it, so I know it's going to be easy. My y value is -2. It's equal to -7. My x value is 1, so I'm going to substitute that in, plus 5. Alrighty. So -2 is equal to -7 times 1 is -7, and then plus 5, I'm going to bring that down. Bring down this -2 again. -7 plus 5 is going to give me -2, so it works out. It's good. It's Gucci. So this is the answer to number 2. My x value is 1, and my y value is -2. Okie dokie, already chokey. Alright, so I'm going to do a few more problems, 2 more, and then we should be good to go. Let me know if you have any questions afterwards, if you're still struggling with this. Let's go. Alright, first step, you're going to line them up perfectly, okay? So I have y is equal to 5x minus 29, and then I have y is equal to -7x plus 19. Alright, cool. I went ahead and I lined them up, okay? Now I'm going to locate which variable has the same coefficient. If I look at my x value, its coefficient is 5 and then -7. That's not the same number, so I'm going to look over here instead. My y values both have 1s in front of them, so that means they have the same coefficient, therefore I'm going to get rid of that one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract. the top by the bottom. And to do that, I'm going to multiply -1 by everything on the bottom to rewrite my problem to make it easier for me. So I'm going to bring this over, and I'm going to multiply. -1 times 1 is going to give me a -1y. -1 times -7 is going to give me a +7x. And then -1 times +19 is going to give me -19. And now I can go ahead and add and subtract down. Okay. 1 minus 1, well, those are opposites, so I have eliminated that. That is equal to 0. 5 plus 7, because remember, negative times a negative gave me a positive, so I'm going to add these. 5 plus 7 is going to give me 12x. And the -29 minus 19 is going to give me -48. So I've eliminated my y variable. Now I can go ahead and solve for x instead. So what I'm going to do, to make it easier for me, I'm going to move my variable over here. So I got to do the opposite of a plus 12. Opposite is a -12, or subtraction by 12. And whenever I do on one side, I have to do it on the other side as well. So now I have rewritten this, and I can solve for x. To get x by itself, I'm going to do the opposite of -12. It's going to be multiplied by x, which is division. Whatever I do on one side, I have to do it on the other side as well. -48 divided by -12 is going to give me a +4. Okay? So now I have my x value. Now I'm going to substitute it back into one of the original problems in order to find y. I'm going to choose the first one because, that's just the trend I'm doing. That's what I'm just doing, it looks like. So y is going to be equal to 5. I'm going to substitute my x value in now. 5 multiplied by 4. That's going to subtract that by 29. All right. 5 multiplied by 4 is going to give me 20. And then minus 29. 20 minus 29 is going to give me -9. So my x value is 4. My y value is -9. So this is going to be my ordered pair. Now I can check my work by plugging this into these problems in order to make sure it works out. So I'm going to substitute this into the bottom problem just to shake it up a little bit, because you do get the correct answer regardless, or you should. If you don't, it's not the right answer. But anyway. I'm going to plug this into this bottom equation. So I have my y value is -9. It's equal to -7. X value is 4. So I'm going to plug that in, plus 19. All right, cool. All right, so bring down this -9. -7 times 4 is going to give me a -28 plus 19. -28 plus 19 is going to give me -9. Therefore, it works out. So this is going to be the answer to this problem. Sorry, I had to go answer the door, so my bad. Okay, so what did we just do? We figured out it did work out. So this is my ordered pair. That is the solution to those systems of equations. So it's 4 and -9. So on number 3, I'm going to say, hey, my x value is 4. My y value is -9. Now I have one more problem left, and if y'all have any questions after this, I know this one's a little bit harder than the other ones. Just let me know, and I'll try to help out in any way that I can. All right, last problem. Again, first step, line them up perfectly, just like you would line up like decimals and stuff. Just make sure it's perfect. So I'm going to write down this problem real quick. It's 15, and then y is equal to -2x minus 8. All right. So guys, I want to make very clear too, is like all of these examples, I understand that we're going to eliminate the y value first, but again, once you get into high school, it's not really going to be the case. Sometimes you're going to eliminate your x value. You're not going to always eliminate your y value. Okay. I'll try to make sure to do some more examples to show you that when we practice this again next week. Okay. Alrighty, so I line them up. I locate which variable has the same coefficient. Well, as the trend goes, y has a 1 in front of both of these. Therefore, this is the one we want to get rid of. So what we're going to do is we're going to subtract the top equation by the bottom equation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this -1 in front of the parentheses, And I'm going to multiply it by everything on the inside per the distributive property. So I'm going to rewrite my problem to make it easier for me. So I'm just going to move this down. And then I'm going to multiply. -1 times a +1 gives me a -1y. -1 times a -2, okay? -1 times a -2 is going to give me a +2x, okay? And then -1 times a -8 is going to give me a +8. Now I can subtract, okay? Okie dokie. So 1 minus 1, those are opposites, so I'm going to eliminate that variable. That's equal to 0. -3 plus 2 is going to give me a -1 left over for x, or next to x. And then -15 plus 8 is going to leave me with a -7. All right. So now I can solve for x. First step is I'm going to move this variable over here. So I got to do the opposite, -1, which is a +1. I'm going to do that on both sides, because whatever you do on one side, you have to do on the other side as well. Okie dokie. So I'm going to rewrite this problem. I'm going to have 1x is equal to -7. Now, to get x by itself, I'm going to divide both sides by 1. So x is equal to -7. Okay? So my last step is I'm going to plug this -7 into one of these problems in order to solve for y. Just like we did when we solved by substitution. It's going to be kind of the same thing. So I'm going to choose this one. I'm going to choose this top one just for fun. So y is equal to -3. My x value is -7, so I'm going to plug that in where x is, minus 15. -3 times -7 is going to give me a +21 minus 15. 21 minus 15 is going to leave me with 6. So y is equal to 6. So I'm going to write out my ordered pair where my x value is -7, my y value is 6, and now I'm going to plug that back into the equations to make sure, hey, that's the correct answer. Okay. So I'm going to choose I'll choose this one again, just for funsies, because I just did it, so it's going to be easier for me. So my y value is 6. Then I have -3. My x value is -7 minus 15. All right. 6 is equal to -3 times -7 give me a +21. 21 minus 15 did give me 6. So 6 is equal to 6, so it works out, and I'm good to go. All right, so this is my ordered pair. This is the solution to these systems of equations. So on the last problem, I have a -7 and 6. All right, guys, so again, I know that one's a little bit, this right here is a little bit different than what you're used to. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to help in any way that I can, and I will see y'all later. Bye.